We all like the nerd, we all laugh at his reviews. There are some that we like more than others. That's why I made a list of my top 10 favorite AVGN episodes. Number 10, Halloween. Who would have thought the nerd would have to babysit a couple of kids? He does here. At least he was able to review the game. The nerd even takes on Michael Myers, all in the same night. That's some Halloween. Even though there are children present, he still says all his swear words. But hey, he gave them an Atari and they played it, and he got them into retro gaming. Number 9, NES accessories. The nerd shows us just how much stuff Nintendo released. I never knew there was a piano or a power pad. I knew of the popular ones like the Zapper, but the Speedboard? It's all this stuff that really made me laugh a lot. The nerd also shows his catalog. Number 8, Sega 32X. Not only does the nerd make fun of this Sega add-on, he talks about how much of a hassle it is to hook up the thing. You need so much outlet space, it's almost not even worth it. The nerd even makes fun of how the cartridges don't have end labels. At this point, he doesn't even need to make fun of the games, but he still does. Number 7, Nintendo World Championship. The nerd showcases both gold and gray NWC cards. This episode also features Pat the NES punk. If you have ever watched his reviews, they are very boring. But here, Pat is anything but that. Watching Pat the NES punk interact with the nerd and just saying jokes is very funny to watch. This just shows that the nerd can make somebody bland like Pat into a funny character. It's too bad none of that rubbed off in Pat's reviews after this episode. Number 6, Nintendo Power. Talking about having Nintendo Power really does take you back to that time, especially hearing the song. I didn't have a Nintendo Power growing up, I had GamePro, so seeing the nerd showing all the cool stuff that were inside each issue, he made me wish I had Nintendo Power growing up. Number 5, Ghostbusters. The way the nerd dissects the game is extremely funny. He makes fun of every single part of the game, to the Ghostbusters buying their own equipment, to playing as the logo. He destroys how the Ghostbusters game for the NES is so messed up. No Winston, tiresome stair climbing, everything is mentioned. Even the end screen with its terrible grammar. The nerd's version of the end screen speaks the truth. Number 4, Tiger Electronics. I never thought the nerd would ever review these things. The nerd barely understands how bad games are made, so when he realizes that Tiger Electronics were everywhere, it just blows his mind. He even talks about the R-Zone, a console that is more terrible than the Virtual Boy. The nerd just rages on throughout the entire episode. Number 3, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Not only does the nerd get angry and frustrated from this game's trash-tacularness, you can tell he gets exhausted. A bad game that makes you tired? That's what the nerd goes through here. The story, the slideshow, the controls, the acting, the wacky filters, all the stupid stuff he witnesses makes him believe Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is one of the worst games he's ever played. Number 2, The Power Glove. This was the very first episode of the nerd I saw. I'm a big fan of the Wizard. I didn't know anybody that knew of it when I was a child, so seeing the nerd quote it here made me excited to know I wasn't the only one to know about it. The nerd shows us that the Power Glove barely worked with any game. His reactions are priceless. But he did land the plane in Top Gun, but lost to Glass Joe. That's how you know the Power Glove had problems. And my number 1 favorite episode is Transformers. The nerd shows us why Transformers was never released outside of Japan. The way the nerd describes the game is just, I think, so perfect that it's funny. He mentions how the difficulty is just horribly awful. It's tough for the wrong reasons because of enemies being way stronger. The level layouts make it difficult to navigate. The game barely has anything to do with Transformers. It disappoints in every way. That right there just makes me laugh. A game that disappoints in every way. You cannot get any worse than that. So those are my top 10. There are a lot of episodes I also like a lot, but I had to cut those ones out, which is a shame because each one has something good about it. These are the ones that I thought had the funniest quotes and just really made me laugh out loud.